Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Peace Garage. I have a few videos about spray painting, spraying base coats, clear coats, how to spray, how to prep, that kind of thing. But I seem to have left some gaps. Now I monitor all the comments and I answer all the comments if I can. Sometimes they're linked and I can't answer them for some reason, but I do answer all the comments. And if you do leave a nasty comment, insulting or really nasty comment, I delete them. So don't even bother trying. And if you find one, let me know so I can delete it. Now. I left some gaps in my videos, and from the comments and from all the text messages I receive, there's a lot of questions about painting. A lot of the questions are, for example, do I need a 1.6 or 1.8 tip, or is a 1.4 tip good enough? How long do I leave the base coat dry before I put the clear on? How much clear do I put on? How do I put a 3/4 coat on? How do I clean my gun? How do I adjust my gun? So I have some gaps in that. Now, I'm going to make this video, the goal is to answer all those questions. Now, if you're this video is intended for someone who just wants to paint something. If you're an expert spray painter and you have a $450 or $500 Iwata gun and you're spraying constantly and using waterborne paints and you're doing all that kind of stuff, I've been there. I know what you guys are talking about, but I'm trying to help the guy who just wants to fix his car, wants to buy a cheap gun to spray something, who wants to put a base coat, clear coat down, has never done it before. That's what I'm trying to make this video for, okay? Now, with that in mind, I realize that you can't afford to have a bunch of guns. I have a bunch of spray guns that are set up with different types of tips, different types of needles, different types of air nozzles, different kinds of setups because depending on the viscosity and type of material I'm painting. Even a small gun like this little airbrush kind of gun is good for touch-ups, but you're not going to spray a big area with it. You could spray a mirror with it, something small with it, and then this is a DeVilbiss finish line gun. It's HVLP. HVLP stands for high volume, low pressure. The guns used to be on the bottom of the spray gun, and that's used vacuum to feed, and you ended up blowing spray all over the place at 90 psi. These only require 20, 25 psi, and you can get a great job out of this kind of gun. That's why they went to this style. Now, I'm going to show you what gun I use for the bulk of the work I do. These are all, let's see what I got. These are all DeVilbiss guns. I had some Binks guns, Iwatas that I used for other things, but these are very basic starting line. Well, they're basic spray guns that you can buy from Eastwood. You can go online and buy them from a million places. I buy them from Eastwood because sometimes they get kits where you can get 3 spray guns or a nice spray gun in a kit and for a good price. So that's why I get it. But it's perfectly fine to go to Harbor Freight and buy a spray gun for $29, a gun like this, if you're just going to spray one thing. Perfectly fine. They work. I've done it in a pinch situation. You can use those. So I'm going to show you the gun I use for the bulk of my spraying, the needle, the tip, what it all means, the spray nozzle, and then we'll look at the putting down some sealer. I have a mirror I'm going to paint, so that's why I'm making this video. I have a small mirror. It's going to be easy to do this. I'm going to spray some sealer on it. I'll put some base coat down and put the clear coat on, and I'll actually film the process so you'll be able to see how it goes on, how thick it goes on, and then how much time it goes in between that. And I have a way you can see the time. That's what I'm going to do. So let's go take a look at a gun, and then we'll set up I'll set the gun up. I'll do some test sprays on a big piece of paper, and I'll spray the part, and hopefully I'll answer all the questions. Let's go take a look. Now this gun is the workhorse for most of the spraying I do. This is a DeVilbiss finish line spray gun, and you can see it's pretty worn out. I really use this a lot and I like it, and it does a great job for most of the jobs. Now the basic parts of the spray gun, right? You have your flow and how much this nozzle, you'll have 2 knobs on the back, and of course the one on the bottom being how much it allows the trigger to be pulled back. So and when you pull the trigger back, if I take my this screw and I screw it in, which is clockwise, the less I can pull the gun back. And to see if you can see when I do this, the trigger, I can feel the trigger moving forward. I don't know if you can see it, but the trigger now doesn't go back as far. So that controls the flow. So if you adjust it just a little bit, it'll just let a little paint through. So now when you pull the trigger, you pull it just a little bit, the air starts. You'll feel it engage the needle, and then when you pull it more, that's what lets the paint flow. I usually leave it all the way open because I am used to spraying wide open throttle with my spray guns, so I leave it all the way open, so I get full throw on there. The top knob is going to be for your pattern, spray pattern. When you turn it clockwise, turn it clockwise this way. It's going to turn the spray pattern into a circle. So the spray pattern is going to come out in a circle, and as you open it up, the spray pattern goes from a circle and it starts to turn out into a fan. That's what that top one does. Now the nozzles and the tips. When you take off your spray, your air tip, here's the nozzle inside, okay? The tip. This is what controls the amount of flow. And if you're looking for how big is the tip on your gun, it'll be written on the side here, on somewhere on the inside on this surface. And this is a 1.6 tip. And what I want to do is I want to take this tip off, and this tip is plastic, so it's not a metal one on some of the other expensive guns. But you can see that this nozzle, or this tip, is just a tapered part with a hole in it, and you can see the needle. See how the needle's tapered here? The needle's tapered. So it goes, the needle goes in the tip like that, goes in like this, and you can see as you pull the needle back out of the tip, that's what makes the material flow. That's how it works. The material flows through the tip, across the tip, through the needle, I'm sorry, across the needle and through the tip. So I'm going to put this back on, and when you put your gun together, you don't have to crank these things together, just hand tight is good. I've had a hard time getting those off sometimes, so you don't want to put them on too far. And your air nozzle, the air tip, this one comes, now this is a 1.6 tip and a number 3 spray head, the air head. And when you put your gun back together, you want to make sure that your air nozzle here is perpendicular. So let me check that to make sure. So when you don't have to crank it down now, I'm just putting it on tight. Gotta get it straight. So you see how the nozzle is this way? If you don't do that, the spray pattern is going to be this way. So if you don't put this just right, your spray pattern is going to be off at an angle and you won't be able to spray right. So make sure it's up and down. I have turned it this way so that the spray pattern is this way if I'm spraying up and down on something. So I have my spray pattern going this way. That way I can get coverage wide. But usually 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, 99 out of 100, I'll leave it this direction like this, okay? So what I'm going to do, oh, the other thing. When you put your gun, I put it, you have an air adjustment on the bottom with a needle, with a gauge, to adjust the air pressure. I like the standard gauge, analog gauge. The digital gauges sometimes can fail, and if you're in the middle of painting something and the battery dies and your digital gauge goes, you're really hurting. So I like the manual gauges, the analog gauges, which are mechanical. Also, you can put a filter in line if you like, but that starts to take your fitting and starts to push it further away from the gun, and then you have this huge thing on the back of your gun, and you want to have it kind of balanced. So when you set it up, you don't want to have it too heavy so that it's like the gun's being weighed down by the hose and all the stuff you put on there. So keep it balanced, because when you're spraying, you're going to want it nice and balanced, because you're going to put the liquid in here, and the liquid can be kind of heavy. If you fill it up all the way, you can imagine a quart of material in there. It's going to be heavy. So if you have a heavy gun, it's really going to make your arm tired if you're spraying the whole car. So let me put some paint in here. We'll go out and adjust. I'll show you on a piece of paper how it sprays and what the different settings do to your gun. Okay, so this is what I have in my gun right now. I have the 1.6 millimeter tip, number 3 air nozzle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple different things. First, I'll spray a spot and a fan, and then I'll show what it looks like as you gradually pull back the trigger. So this is closed, gradually pulling back the trigger, and you can see the volume, okay? So I have my gun, I have my air hooked up, and I'm going to close the air valve all the way. Right now, no air. I'm going to gradually open it up, a little bit of air. So the more you open it up, the more air you get, the more you're going to mist the paint around. So you don't need it wide open like that. It's not going to help you to spray. You're just going to be spraying your material all over the place. Now I'm going to set my gun. I'll pull the trigger. It's going to be set at, I'll set it at about 18 to 19 PSI. That's about what it's set at right now. Maybe, let me see. Just about 18 or 19, okay? Now first I'm going to close this pattern all the way, and I'm just going to spray a spot, okay? Ready? Here's my spot. There's a spot. So when you have this closed all the way, you're going to spray a spot, and you can see it's starting to run. The material will come out very fast. Not a lot of air, a lot of material. It'll be a spot, but there's so much material in a concentrated spot it's going to run, okay? Now, I'm going to take my spray pattern, and there's a line on here. So the line is right now at about 8 o'clock. I'm going to open it up till just to noon, to 12 o'clock. Okay? I'm going to spray a fan pattern. Ready? I'll do the same thing, same exact time with the trigger pull. You see how that sprays? Now it's a fan. See how the fan pattern is? Now when you test your gun, if you have the gun perfectly parallel to the surface, when you spray it, you should get an even pattern. It almost looks like the Milky Way on the side. But anyway, it should be even. If it's heavy on one side and thin on the other, it's not an even fan, then something's clogged up. Either there's a little something like a little booger on your tip, on the needle inside, something's clogging it up. So you want to make sure you have a nice fan, okay? Now that's when I pulled the trigger full, and that's what I got. So what I'm going to do is real quick, I'm going to take my gun, and I'm going to squeeze it just a little bit, and then I'll pull the trigger back to show you how much material can come out of the gun, okay? Now, the other thing to remember is you can adjust this fan pattern. You can have it just beyond a spot and in between, but I know my gun settings and I practice with it, so I know that right about 12 o'clock is where I use my pattern, okay? So I'll spray this, okay, ready? And I'll pull the trigger back just a little bit to start the air, like that. No material comes out, you're just getting air. And then I'll spray my pattern. A little bit, then a lot. Okay? So you can see just a little bit of pulling the trigger back, and the more you pull it back, the more material is going to come out. And that's what you're trying to achieve. And when you spray, you're going to want to overlap. And I pull the trigger full, and you'll get used to it. But you can practice on a piece of paper like this, it helps. And you want to overlap your pattern, okay? So I'm going to spray this paper a little bit, and I'm going to overlap this pattern, and I'll show you how. So you want to try and work back and forth and keep your gun perpendicular all the way. You don't want to tilt it. You don't want to do this kind of thing. You don't want to take your gun and swerve it like this. You want to keep it straight, move it straight. Don't swing your arm. Like that. You can always come back and even it off. Now that's red paint on white paper, so it's going to show through a lot. That's going to be uneven, and it's paper, and this is just a base coat. This is a red Dupont chroma-based base coat. That's why I'm using the red so you can see. And that's all you have to do is just work it straight. Overlap your strokes like that, and you'll get a nice even coat. Let that dry, and you can come back and spray, and then you come back and spray at different angles. When you spray at different angles, then you'll get your metallic more even. I'll show you real quick. If I take this air and I'll give it a lot of air, and watch what happens here. Okay, if you can see that, watch all this paint that gets sprayed away from it. I'll do it again. Ready? There's paint blowing all over the place. The material is not going on the surface. It's blowing all over the place. So you don't need a lot of air pressure. Turn it back down now. Turn it back down to 18. And there I am. Got a perfect spray pattern, okay? That's how you adjust your gun. That's what it looks like. Now, let me put some paint on a part, and I'll show you how much to put on, what it looks like, how long to let it dry, and what the result is. Okay, now this is the mirror I'm going to be painting. It's scuffed up with some Scotch-Brite. I have it all masked off. And I have that clock in the background. I'm just going to run that in real time so you can see how long it actually takes to do this stuff and how long I let the materials sit between coats to dry. Right now, the temperature in here is about, I'm going to say 55 degrees. Humidity is not too high. So it's a little cooler, so it's going to take a little longer to dry, but you can speed it up with accelerators and reducers. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off the part with a degreaser. I use this Prep-All. It's just a clean strip Prep-All you can get anywhere, so I'm going to wipe down the part real quick. Now that it's all wiped down, I'm just going to dry it off with my spray gun. A little air, and I'm going to wipe it down with a tack cloth. So now I'm ready to spray, but a couple things before we do that. First, you're going to choose your material. Go wherever you go buy your paint. Ask the person at the paint store what they recommend, how to thin it, how to mix it. If there's a hardener required, how to do that. And they'll give you some paint cups that'll help you with mixing and teach you how to mix it. So I can't answer all those questions right now, but all you have to do is ask questions whoever you buy the paint from, and they'll be able to help you with that. Next, ask them for some strainers. You want to strain everything you put in your spray gun. You strain the sealers, the base coats, the clear, strain everything, because you never know what could be in there. They'll also give you these strainers. My good friends at Auto Finishers in Buffalo and Rochester, Buffalo, New York, the Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse area. These guys are awesome. Autofinishers.com. That's where I get all my stuff, and they help out. These guys are truly awesome. You can give them a call if you need any help. They sell Dupont products. Also, when you're going to spray, you want to make sure you protect your body. I wear a long sleeve shirt when I spray, and gloves. So make sure you put gloves to protect your hands and your skin from chemicals, and you want to protect your lungs. This kind of respirator is not going to help you. This is just a cheap respirator, like a dust respirator that you use when you're sanding. It's not going to help you when you're spraying chemicals. It's just going to filter out particulate in the air. It's not going to take out the odor or the solvents that are going to evaporate as you're spraying. So it can still hurt your lungs. You can get dizzy, pass out. So get yourself a good respirator. Although I do use that one. I do have a very good respirator that I've been using for a long time. You can see this thing is really painted up. So this is a different kind of respirator. The reason it's better is because this has an external filter, and this external filter is just a dust filter. This is what takes out all the particulate, and you can change those. And then it has this inside, this charcoal filter, and this charcoal filter is what filters out all the odor, the vapors, takes out all the VOCs out of the air. And these just screw out, so you can change those too. And then the dust cover goes on like that. This will protect your lungs. You want to have a good respirator, keep it in good shape. And also, if you're going to do this, you're going to spray and you have a beard, this won't seal against your face if you have a beard. So you're going to have to make sure that you're following the recommendations, or get a respirator that is made for a beard. You might have to use a full face respirator. But if you're doing a lot of spraying, make sure you protect your lungs. Because if they get damaged, you'll never be able to fix it, and you'll be really sorry later in life. So protect your skin, protect your arms, protect your lungs. If you're going to be spraying a lot, I use a hairnet where I put over my head. I have a cover used to cover my hair, so that the spray will build up in your hair, and cover your face. Safety glasses if you want to use them. It's tough to spray with safety glasses. They fog up, and I've had them fall off occasionally, so that's up to you. But protect your lungs, protect your body. That's what you want to do. Now, I'm going to put some sealer in my gun, and we'll spray it on the mirror. Okay, and now I'm ready to spray. And as you can see, it's 20 to 1 in the afternoon. It takes time to spray. You don't want to rush. So don't come out and think you're going to get it done real quick in an hour and you'll be all finished. It takes time. So I'm spraying on my sealer. This is a Nason product. It's just a select seal. And I'm going to use low air pressure. Lower my air pressure. And I'm going to spray it very slowly on this mirror to make sure I get it in all little corners and make sure it fits right. Okay, put my respirator on and we'll get going. All done. Okay, that took about 20-25 minutes to dry, and you can see that it's a dull finish. That's how you tell it's dry. Now the next most common question I get, do I have to sand the sealer? The answer is no, you don't have to. However, if you do look at it and there's a little thing in there, maybe a little hair, a little bump, a little something like that, you can hit it with some Scotch-Brite very, very lightly. Just go over it so you don't dig into the sealer. It's still a little soft. And just clean it up as good as you can. And I did that on this. There was a little spot where there was a little booger in there, and I had to knock it down. So I knocked it down, clean it off real good with a tack cloth. Make sure it's clean, blow it off with your spray gun, and come back with your color. Now I'm going to put the color on here, and the product I'm using is called Metalux, which is going to be tough for me to show you. Metalux. Metalux, this is owned by, this is a product that's made, actually DuPont just purchased this company. I usually spray DuPont, Chroma Bases, and Nason products, or Nason. And I'm trying this out because I just bought the company, and my good friend at Auto Finishers, Bill gave me this and he said, hey, try this out and see what you think. So I'm going to try out some Metalux. Now this is a metallic, it's a real dark gray, almost a black, and I'm going to be spraying this on, and I'll be going very slow. And the goal here is not to pour on a ton of material. You want to get a nice even coat and make sure you have good color coverage. So I'm going to be spraying all around real slow, and I'll probably go around that mirror a couple times, maybe 3 times, very slow with the spray gun, so you can see how I get the color to be even across the entire mirror. I'll do that now. Now, next most common question. While I'm letting that base coat dry out there, next most common question I get, do you clean your spray gun every time you spray in between coats? Now, if I were just going to spray base coat and I wanted to put some more base down, I'd just leave it here and I'd go back and spray some more and finish it all off, do it all at once. But in between my sealer coats, base coats, and clear coats, I clean the gun completely. Take it apart, clean it completely. I do that. I'm going to do that now because I have color in the gun. It would be difficult to show you with if I was doing it with clear, because it's very difficult. But always take your gun completely apart. Now I have some paint left in here. I'm going to pour it back in the can. You see I'm using my strainer because I want to keep that paint as clean as possible. Let that drip out like that as much as possible. And I'll just show you the process just so you can see how to clean your gun. I'll speed it up just a little bit. Okay, take your strainer, and depending on where you live, what you're doing, you want to make sure that you're following all of your environmental regulations. We want to protect our environment, so you don't want to just throw stuff in the garbage, because you can get in a lot of trouble for that. Have a lot of paper towels handy for this process. I'll just wipe down the cover real quick just to get that off. And my what I'll do, and now you can use, there's different cleaners for spray guns. I use lacquer thinner because I buy a lot of it, and it makes cleaning the gun a lot easier. So I'll put some in there, swish it around in the cup just a little bit, pull the trigger. You can see there's still some paint coming out. Now, as soon as it comes out fast, that's the lacquer thinner. So at least know I got that done. Clean up the outside of my cup here real quick. Reach inside, clean as good as I can. And I collect all of my towels in a receptacle that's good for flammable materials. You don't want to leave it sitting out where it can blow up. So, and I just take and wipe out my cup real quick like that. You can see it's going to be pretty messy. I keep my gloves on. You usually go through a couple gloves when you do any kind of paint job because you're going to be constantly cleaning. Okay, so now I got some filthy lacquer thinner here. I'm not going to use that, and I want to clean my gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to it's good to have a couple cups. These are the cups I was talking about. Auto Finishers, my good friends Auto Finishers. I don't get paid for them. They're just great guys. I've been buying stuff from them for over 30 years, and they're awesome. That's why I use their name. If you go to autofinishers.com, they'll help you. Now, I'm going to clean the gun. I got my spent cleaner here, my spent lacquer thinner. I'm just going to take off my tip, which is my spray nozzle, and put that in there. Let this swirl around a little bit. I'm going to take my cup off here. And inside the cup is a filter strainer. I'm just going to push that out. Let that go right in there. I'm going to set my cup aside. I'm going to pull off my tip. Let that drop in there. Now you can see my needle in there. I'm going to unscrew the back of the gun. I'm going to take out the spring and the adjustment screw. Set that aside. And I'm going to push this needle out the back, just like that. The needle comes right out the back. Put that in there. Swish around and get that started to clean. Now, it's dirty in here, paint here, and I'm going to take out this screw here, inside the spray gun, this little fitting in there. As you tighten that down, that's what creates the seal between the needle and the outside of the gun. Otherwise, the paint would leak out, and there's a nylon seal, a little Teflon seal in there. So I'm just going to take this little screw out of there because I want to wash that too. And now I have the gun. So, inside here, I'm just going to take this out to show you there's a little blue nylon, well, it might be nylon or Teflon. It's a little seal that goes at the bottom of the gun there to seal that part. There's also seal in here. I'm going to leave it in. I'm not going to take that packing out. And what I do is I just like to do this real quick. I just dip my gun in the lacquer thinner and just swirl around a little bit just to get most of it clean. And then I use the tools. The gun comes with a cleaning brush. You just go in here and just clean it out. And take your time to clean your gun. You take care of your gun, it'll last a long time. I've had this gun for probably at least 15 years. Maybe 10 to 15. 10 to 15. I don't remember when I bought it, but I've had it for a long time. You keep it clean, you can keep your stuff a long time. Just like anything. Take care of your tools, and they'll take care of you. So I clean that out like that. I'll get in the back of this fitting there a little bit. I also keep a lot of toothbrushes handy. Toothbrushes make excellent cleaning tools, although the lacquer thinner is going to eat that plastic pretty quick, so I don't use them too extensively. And if you don't have any toothbrushes, just make an appointment, get your teeth cleaned, and your dentist will give you all the free ones you want. So, clean everything all out. And have a lot of paper towels. And at least have a roll of paper towels handy, because you're going to go through a lot of paper towels cleaning your gun. Wipe off the outside of the gun. Clean out the inside a little bit. Okay. Now, you got to start putting these pieces together. So you could either stick your hand in there and grab those out of there, which would be a little messy, especially with your gloves on. So I'm going to pour out as much as I can. Okay. And I'm going to use my needle. I'm going to fish out. Oops. Fish out my little fitting. Put that back in the gun. And this just takes a little bit of patience because it's not easy to get threaded. But when you've done it a couple hundred times, a couple thousand times actually, you thread that back in there. It's a little tough with gloves, but you want to have gloves on while you're cleaning your spray gun because you don't want to have any of that get on your skin. Especially the lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner is a solvent. It absorbs quickly through your skin, and you can get real sick from it over long-term exposures. Short-term, probably not, but it is a degreaser, and it will dry out your skin a lot. Of course I'm having trouble with this, right? I never have trouble because I'm left-handed. Okay, I'm going to screw that in. Now, if you screw this in too tight, then it'll crush that seal in there, and it'll completely make your needle stick. So don't put it in there too tight. They give you a tool. The tool looks like this. This comes with spray guns. And you don't want to crank on anything. I use all finger tight. Finger tight for that. I'm going to take my needle, wipe off my needle, make sure it's nice and clean. Put my needle in. And this is where I check to see how tight that is. Now if it goes in, see how it's going in a little tight? It feels a little tight. I go in here and adjust that. Get a little looser. Okay, now I'll put my spring with the adjustment screw in. And I don't go too far. I just go a couple threads just so the needle works, just like that. Now I can take my tip, wipe off my tip, make sure it's nice and clean. I'll just go inside here a little bit. My brush. Make sure there's nothing hung up in there, just clean it out. And if you have an air hose handy, I keep an air hose handy. Just blow it over. Put the tip back on. Finger tight, you don't have to crank down on it. Now I'm going to take my air nozzle, wipe it off, make sure it's nice and clean. Put that back on. Again, I'm putting it right side up so that the air nozzle is perpendicular. And I'm going to get out this is going to be a little difficult. This is the washer, the plastic washer that goes in the top. Just going to seat it in there, make sure it's straight. This prevents the gun from leaking. Now I can reach in here. Oh, my cup. I'm going to take some reducer on here. And it looks clean on the inside, but when you put some reducer or gun cleaner on there and you go around, there's a lot in there. So take your time, go through a couple paper towels, and make sure that your cup is clean. Inside and out. Clean the inside of my bottom part of the cup before I put my filter back in. And grab my filter that goes in the cup. It's going to blow it out. Put that back in the cup. Put that together. And the last part is the cover. You want to make sure you clean your cover. There's a hole in your lid. There's a little hole at the bottom of this, and that's important because if that hole is not clear, you'll create a vacuum in your gun, and it'll cause it not to spray right. So make sure you clean out, make sure that hole is clean. I can see right through it, I know it's clean. And again, I'm using a toothbrush just to clean the grooves around the top. I'm going to wipe it off. It's nice and clean. Clean that up. Alright, clean. Ready to go spray or clear. And like I said, you want to make sure that you preserve the environment, so I always set that aside. Keep that because I'm going to dispose of that properly. And all ready for the clear. Now the base coat is base coat is dry, and you can tell by how dull it is. The dull surface is not shiny. You see by the clock, I've been working on this for at least an hour. And I've been working non-stop. Yeah, I got to make the video, but I do all the steps every time. Clean the gun in between coats, clean it, and then make sure everything's ready to roll for the next coat. Now I'm going to put the clear on. The clear, you're going to see I'm going to put a real light one on there, a light coat. I'm going to let that sit for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or so. And then I'm going to come back and put on, gradually build up a heavier coat until it's completely shiny. Less is more here. You don't want to pour it on. It's easy to make it run. So light coats, very, very light. Wait a little bit, let it tack up. And then once you have it all shiny, that's when you stop. Because putting more on is not going to make it more shiny. It's going to make it run. Let's put the clear on. Okay, last most common question. Do you sand between clear coats? The answer is no. Can you? Sure. But you'd have to let that cure set in at least 24 hours. I'd let it cure before you sand it if you have a problem. If there's something in the clear, stop right away. Don't bother going any further, because if you put more clear on it, it's just going to make a bigger mess. So let it sit. To put the more clear on the next day, wet sand it, and go through the whole process again. It's worth it. Don't rush it. Now, I'm going to put my last clear on. It's been, about 5 minutes or so. This is pretty tacky. It's drying pretty quick. Put the last clear on, and that'll be it. So here's the mirror. I'm going to let this cure overnight before I put it in. And you can see, what do we got? 10 after 2. So it took about an hour and a half. So figure on, cleaning up and getting yourself ready a couple hours to paint a small thing like this. I know it seems like a lot. The painting is a short part. The longest part is the is prepping and cleaning and wiping and all that kind of stuff. So there you go, guys. As much as you want to know about painting, I hope I answered a lot of your questions. Got to film the process this time, laying down the material, letting it cure. You know how long it takes. It's really not that difficult. Just take your time, and you're not going to have a failure or a bad paint job because you took too long during the day to do it. You will have a failure, though, if you rush. Don't rush. Put the coats down, let them set. Make sure you're putting them down nice and even. Take time in between. Clean your material, make sure you're using filters, etc., etc. Now, I didn't film the mixing process because all paints are mixed different. The paint, the base coat that I used, that was already mixed for me by the paint guy, ready to shoot out of the gun. I didn't have to do anything with it. So you can do that. Some bases required a reducer, and there's so many factors. There's the temperature that you're spraying in, the humidity, the distance you hold the gun, the air pressure, how much moisture is in your air. I mean, there's an infinite amount of combinations you could possibly hit. And even the best spray painters have problems. Yes, you're going to get things in the paint. Yes, you're going to have drips or runs and sag. It's going to happen. It happens to me occasionally too. You can never be perfect. And sometimes the conditions are just right, and you put on just a little bit too much, and you think you're doing a great job, and all of a sudden just a little bit of a run, a little bit of a sag. But you can fix that in clear coats. Enamels, they're a little different. That's a different problem, but you can fix those things. So take your time. Don't rush through it. Make sure you're using good materials, and you should have great results. I appreciate all your comments. If you're a painter and you'd like to leave some comments, and I know I'll probably get tons of comments on how I clean the gun and how extensively some people clean their guns, but I've had that gun for 15 years and it sprays flawless, so I believe I'm doing an adequate job cleaning it. But, leave a comment, whatever you want to help out. And just keep nice, be nice about it. We're all trying to learn. We're trying to share our experiences. We're trying to learn from each other. We're not trying to make fun of each other and criticize each other or call each other names. That doesn't get anywhere. We get further by helping each other and explaining things and sharing your experience. That's all I'm trying to do here, so let's not be nasty. And thanks for all your comments and text messages. I really appreciate it. You guys are doing a great job. Thanks for sharing your projects. Awesome stuff out there. You guys are doing a lot of incredible work, and I really appreciate you watching these videos. Thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage.